This word also appears in Genesis 15, referring to count or number the stars. And looking into the meaning of Sefer, it is to count, recount, relate, to count, to number, to take account of, reckon, to be counted, be numbered, to recount, rehearse, declare, to recount, rehearse, to talk, to count exactly or accurately, to be recounted, be rehearsed, be related, and enumerator, muster officer, secretary, scribe, enumerator, muster officer, secretary, learned man, scribe. This is what the concordance had to say on this word. That's the Strong's Concordance, by the way. And you see how the name Joseph, Yosef is related to the word to tell. Having the two letters Samech and Pei, or Pei its final form, at the end of the word in common. So you notice Yosef has a Yod, Vav, Samech, and Pei, whereas to tell has Samech and Pei, but at the end has an extra resh and has the Yod and Vav missing from the beginning. So there's like two letters in common between these two words. Another word which shares these two letters is color, which is pas, or in plural, colors, pasim. And it's actually the word is from pasas. So I'm looking at the word, the meaning of pas or color, flat of the hand or foot, palm, sole, or the tunic reaching palms and soles. This is probably the meaning of H6461. I'm not sure if this is by coincidence, but the Hebrew word for colors, pasim, has 3 of the 4 letters of Joseph. So if you look at pasim, if you look at the inverted of Yod, Samek, and Pei, there's actually the Vav missing. Yasaf is there. Oh, I see. Okay, well, Pasas H6461 is here. To disappear, vanish, cease, fail. I should look more into this, get a little more organized into the meaning of the words, but bear with me. Another word which shares these two letters is silver, kasaf. Now you have that's H3701 from the concordance, from silver, kasaf, H3701 from the concordance, from the root word kasaf. I don't know how it's pronounced, but it's H3700, and the meaning of it is silver, money, as metal, as ornament, as color, money, shekels, talents, and the root word means to long for, yearn for, long after, to long for, to be being longed for, and so on. So I decided to take the text and compare it with the Hebrew. And so I took the King James on the one side and the Westminster Leningrad Codex version of the Hebrew Bible on the other side. And as you see, Joseph is mentioned here. Yosef twice. And Joseph loved, and now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And Yosef is in red, whereas colors is in blue. And in this case, Joseph is actually derived from the word more or adding, but I decided to give a different color to show you the distinction between the two. So you notice Yosef and Yosef is actually almost the same, except that the last letter of Yosef is has a final version of the letter Pei, whereas in the word that in the Hebrew word which means more or adding, since it's not the final form, it's not the last letter, because there's a vav afterwards. It keeps this form, but it's pretty much the same in meaning. And then you notice, and he dreamed yet another dream and told it his brethren. To tell is also the same as the meaning of to keep record or to count. And sefer is Sefer is the verb, and sefer is the noun, which also means book, which also Ezra the scribe. Ezra is also the 15th book of the Bible, and Ezra was known to have kept records. He probably was the one who kept the records of the genealogies and so on. And he probably contributed most of the Old Testament and to flesh out the accounts, the stories. So told is mentioned twice here, in verse 9 and in verse 10. And then we go to, once again, Joseph is mentioned in verse 13, 17. And once again, Joseph and colors is mentioned in verse 23. And in verse 28 you see Joseph and the 20 pieces of silver. Joseph is Yosef and silver is Kasaf. So it has two letters in common. Then there's colors again, is also two letters in common, just like I mentioned before, the Pei and the Samech. Something which I haven't highlighted is this word saris, maybe worth looking into after this. But it says the next word is Pharaoh. The next part I put it in, I built on the theory just as before, like when I counted the name of the Joseph found in Genesis, there were 137. It was mentioned 137 times, and then I had the theory that Joseph is focused on in Genesis in uh, Genesis 37, or maybe I should say the introduction of Joseph, or in Joseph was introduced in Genesis 30. It was named, born, but his life story was in or began in Genesis 37, and so I was looking at Genesis 37 and Genesis 47. Why? Because let me read this to you. Genesis, the first book, therefore, Genesis 47 would also be recognized as 147, the chapter where Jacob is actually 147 years old. So here's something in common. Well, when you look in the text, you see something that reflects the chapter and the book, the numbering of the chapter in the book. So I was looking into Genesis 37 and Genesis 47, and Jacob dwelled in the land where in his father was a stranger in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Jacob, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. And looking at Genesis 47, verse 28, in other words, written 147 and 28. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the whole age of Jacob was 147 years. So notice in Genesis 37, as this came to my attention, I don't know if I'd noticed it before. It says that Jacob dwelled in the land wherein his father was a stranger. Remember that when Joseph was born, he decided to leave his father-in-law's land, Laban, and he should have been in Israel. I don't know, maybe within a year or even less. So when Joseph is in the land of Canaan and he's 17 years old, it means Jacob lived in the land for like 17 years. And when you look at Genesis 47, here it says in verse 28, it says, and Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. Or once again, there's like something in common between Genesis 37 and Genesis 47. They dwelled in the land for 17 years. And it says the whole age of Jacob was 147 years.